Hey everybody, and welcome back to another movie review here. Today we are going to be discussing perhaps the greatest ever movie made. Stephen, some people would disagree, but these people are not to be listened to.
No.
They're shysters, some would say, and that would be me. Of course, it's the Shawshank Redemption. We are in the midst of a coronavirus pandemic, epidemic. There is no more new movies releasing in the theatres, so we therefore cannot go out and watch new releases. So we're going back and reviewing some of our favourite movies. We're not going to review the shiter movies like Phoenix Forgotten and piles of crap like that, Blair Witch Project. No, it'll be buttered up. It'll be favourite movies of all time.
Yeah.
This is right up there for me. It's probably my all-time favourite movie of all time, funnily enough.
It's one of mine, John. I don't know if it is my favourite one, but it's certainly one that I've probably watched the most out with the usual Star Wars, etc. A New Hope.
Yeah.
I first saw this film in 1995, late 95 it was. It seemed to, I think there was maybe about a 4-month delay, or there was a gap between the US releasing this film and the UK releasing it. So this film actually just made it in time for the Academy Awards of 1995. But here in the UK it didn't come out till, I think it was February, I can't remember.
February,
it was springtime.
Something, yeah,
springtime in 1995.
I was a 6-year-old.
And too young to watch it then. But
I've seen it.
That
I've
would
seen
have disturbed me at that age. But listen, I actually think Boggs and his gang are more scarier than Freddy Krueger. But listen, we'll get to that. Obviously, the sisters, John. But just this film, it's just one of these films that stays with you for the rest of your days. It's one of these ones when it comes on. Normally ITV over here in the UK it comes on, and you get that annoyed when the commercial breaks come on because you just want to keep watching the film, although you've watched it 100 times before. And it doesn't matter what part of the film, at what point in the film it is that you tune into it, you watch the rest of it. It's just one of the films.
Stephen, you're just drawn into it. I don't know what it is. We were speaking about it before we came on. I'm trying not to touch my face with my fingers here. It's just something about it, the feel of it, the look, the palette, the music, the cinematography, the characters, the period, everything about this movie just draws you in. I refer to it as like a well-worn pair of slippers. You just slide right in and you feel at home. It feels like an old friend. You're back with old friends. It feels right. There's something about it.
It's like comfort eating, John.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. It just makes everything better. Perhaps I should watch it now and then just cry myself into a sleep later on tonight about what's happening in the world. No, I won't do that.
No.
Tongue in cheek, of course. But Stephen, introduction. Every movie has an intro. I say that
every saga has a beginning. Yeah.
Yes, every movie has a beginning, a middle and an end. Some don't have an end. Some would argue with The Last Jedi doesn't have an end, and it probably should have had an end in the first minute. But we're not getting into The Last Jedi. We're talking about The Shawshank Redemption. Introduction, of course, introduces Andy Dufresne, the main man himself. Tim Robbins playing him. He's in his car, he's very drunk.
Yeah.
His wife's having an affair with a golf pro. He's out in the car, he's clutching a gun. They're obviously found killed. He's up in front of a court and he's charged, they're sentenced to life for killing his wife and her partner. A fairy, I don't know what you'd even call it, adulterer.
Yeah.
I'll pick
lover.
Lover. I'll pick one word and I'll stick with it. And then that obviously is the intro. What did you make of that intro the first time you seen it? And then we'll not get into the actual Shawshank scene yet. Just that.
It's a no nonsense intro, John. It lasts 2 minutes at most. That's the actual murder and the trial as well, all condensed within those 2 minutes because it's not important. The only thing we have to know is that scene with Andy in the car with the gun is implanted in our minds. That then begs the question: did he or didn't he do it? That's all it's there for, And obviously, we have to have a reason why he's going to the Shawshank Redemption as well. This is it. Obviously, you are to assume that he has committed murder. Precisely,
and of course, the running joke throughout this movie is everyone in here is innocent.
Yeah.
And it was just a great little introduction. It set up the primary and protagonist. I was about to say antagonist, not true. And it gives us the foundations of his story. He's going away for life, for killing his wife.
Yeah.
He's in a very tumultuous situation. We then are introduced to Shawshank. I think it's the prisoner bus comes up.
Yeah.
They're all hooting and tooting at the fence. We've got Red and his gang, the likes of Haywood, the other big lanky guy who I don't know.
You know the young guy that's at the fence saying we're reeling him in? That's actually Morgan Freeman's son.
Oh, is it? I didn't know
and he also doubles as him in the photograph for the parole.
Oh, yeah, so he does.
So it's the same guy.
We're reeling him in, that's right.
Yeah.
And then also they're having a conversation. speaking about Andy and just the lineup. Who's going to squeal first? Who's going to be the fresh fish who squeals and perhaps gets wheeled off to the mortuary? I think Red bets a couple of cigarette packets on Andy. Get a stuck-up rich Prick perhaps. I don't think he says that. That maybe your man kills his wife.
Yeah,
says that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he says he's just a silver spoon in his ass or something like that. Or ass, as they say over in the States. But yeah, that was a great shot for the prison that it's setting up the other primary protagonist around about Andy. And then that overflying shot of Shawshank, Thomas Newman's stirring score, just that amazing theme. I get goosebumps thinking about it. I can hear it in my head just now. That's establishing the technical aspect of this movie. As an aside to the story, the overflying of the prison, it just shows you Roger Deakins in all his glorious goodness.
It's also showing us how big this place is as well.
Yeah, it's massive, And look, Stephen, it was just a wonderful start to the movie as a whole. Also, you have the discussions and discussions between Red and his gang. You have the killing, and then it sets the tone. We go in.
Well, Captain Hadley, John, I think you should talk about him first before obviously the fresh fish, because he obviously gets introduced very early on, and you're right, the lineup with the Wendy Wheat thing,
Yeah, when we see you.
Yeah. So
shit when we see you shit.
Yeah, he's a hard man, and he really is a hard man, and we'll see that obviously when we're talking about the fresh fish.
The baton hit to the groin area or the stomach takes the wind out of the guy. Again, sets the tone that this guy is not to be messed with. He's a man that means business. And then of course we go later on. Oh, actually there's talcum powder and shower shots and whatnot as well.
That's the delousing,
Yeah, delousing. And then he's walking in, he starts to settle into his new surroundings, and we have the big fat guy squealing like a pig. I don't belong here. I'm not supposed to be here. I want my mama, or something like that.
Yeah.
And we've got Haywood, played by the magnificent William Sadler, I want to say.
Yeah.
Starts shouting and getting the fresh fish chant going along.
Yeah.
Very brutal though, Stephen. Again, sets the tone for these guys who are involved in the actual institution side of this prison, the guards and whatnot. Well, Captain Haley, probably more so. The way he brutally beats that guy to death, sends him to the mortuary. I think he said something about monkey spunk or something and spits on him or something like that. It shows you that darker, sinister side to what's happening with the authority in this prison. So that was a really important start to the movie. Shows you what's going on with all the primary characters, not the warden yet.
I wouldn't go as far as that, John, because I think Hadley or Hadley, whatever you call him, was it was different to all the other guards. You know, obviously he was a captain, but there was something about him that stood out from the rest of them, because we see as the film goes on there is some decent guys in there that are guards as well. I think that's important because it's not to the villain in this film's not the Shawshank, the facility. It's the people in it, or the individuals. So it's very important to sort of highlight that early on, that it's not a corrupt place as a whole, as a system.
It's one or two individuals,
that are manipulating the system. So, and we get, obviously, we establish that later on in the film.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen, to fine effect, certainly with the warden, But then we have the blossoming relationship between Red and Andy. He's slagging them off initially, and then I think there's a little to-and thrown at perhaps in the canteen as well. But then he slowly
starts... What was his name? Asking about the fresh fish?
What the hell does it mean to you, or something like that? He's dead. And then they have that little interaction in the yard. He says to him, I hear you're a guy that can get things. I think he requests a poster of Rita Hayworth or something like that, and maybe I want to say the hammer, the little rock hammer.
I've not seen this film in 5 years now, John, but there's something. I can't remember the order of what he asked for, but certainly he goes through a variety of posters. Whoever the pin-up is of the day. But the rock hammer is something that he asked for very early on, and obviously Red's very suspicious. He assumes this is some kind of pickaxe or something like that.
And he tells him, you wait till you see the size of it, you'll realise it'll take a man 100 years to tunnel through a wall with this thing, and he sees it. And then that also, again, the laughing and joking element of that sets up this great friendship which takes us through the entire movie. The great Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins are just fantastic in this movie together. Just great dynamic, great on-screen chemistry. I presume off-screen chemistry as well. It's very hard to mimic that if you hate the guy's guts. We've seen that in other movies. It doesn't come off natural. So yeah, I mean, look, Stephen. After that, we're obviously introduced to the sisters as well at some point or another. I'm sure I've missed something. Like you have not seen it in not as long as 5 years. I think it's been a good 6 months.
I think Boggs is established very early on. In fact, I think Boggs is actually.
Oh, it's a great scene.
It makes his introduction before the meeting between Red and Andy, because Red comments that the sisters, as he calls them, have took a shine to them.
That's right.
So the actual shower scene is actually before that, but it's all roughly around about the same time, roughly, that and it's something about prison films. They always set these things up with certain sects of people. And Boggs and his guys are the ones in this film, and they make their move very early on in the film. I think it's probably Andy's first shower, so they don't mess about, these guys.
I think it's because Andy is so tall. I mean, this is something we'll get into later on, perhaps, when we're talking about cast. A very tall cast. I mean, Jesus Christ, William Sadler is not that small. He's round about my height, but he looks like a little boy. These guys are humongous, but Andy is really, really big, so he's just like just glowing signpost, And also we have Boggs making the move for him. That is a great scene, incidentally, for all the wrong reasons.
Playing hard to get.
I like that. I could be a friend to you. It's just an amazing sequence. But then the way that's handled by Frank Darabont and everyone involved, but also Stephen King primarily, because it is his story, short story of his, the ambiguity surrounding that. Well, it's not so ambiguous in the books, I believe, but in this,
the viciousness of them's not there yet, John.
But it's never established that he was actually assaulted sexually or raped or whatever by the sisters. But I think in the book it is established that he won a lot of battles, but he lost a lot of battles. Certainly in the movie, he wins more than he loses. He seems to fight them off. But just the way that's handled, that relationship's another highlight throughout, and it has a big importance because obviously there's moments with Hadley and whatnot. But I feel like I'm jumping hugely in this guideline.
No, not at all.
To the roof tarring scene. It feels like it's a huge jump.
You've got to remember, John, but just before the roof tarring scene, Andy started to try to establish friendships in the facility, and he's tried to, I'm not saying win people over, but he's tried to command a little bit of respect from these people that are not really sure of him. They think he's a bit of a snob. He's a bit
ex-banker.
He's not one of them. He's a cut above, or he thinks he is, and they're kind of playing the sort of inverted snob. And I mean this scene really cements the friendship. That what he does, he puts his life basically on the line, on the edge of that roof with Hadley.
Keep your eye on the map, Andy.
Keep your eye on the map. And basically the first question he asks Captain Hadley is, "Do you trust your wife?" Now that deserves being thrown off the roof with a guy like him, because he's not got the patience, he's not got the temperament to control that kind of line of question, a personal question, which it does come across as. And he's got no respect for the inmates either. He thinks they're all scumbags. He doesn't care where Andy's came from, doesn't care what he was before he stepped inside this facility. He's just like the rest of them. Tars everyone, pardon the pun, with the same brush. And it was such a gamble for Andy as well. It could have ended terribly. It could have ended up like a pizza in that yard. Just splattered all over
quite
it, pepperoni.
So see what happens later.
And everyone else, Red and the gang are all watching this and watching it unfold. And what is Andy playing it? It's just a great scene, John. Obviously, the beer scene, that kind of comes into that just at the end of the sequence it's just a brilliant scene. But just that, it's a very important scene for Andy. It's very important for him to establish friendships with people that he can trust, and it must be very hard to develop trust in these kind of situations with the people that are inside, because he doesn't know what most of them are in for,
especially when they've been there longer,
and they all say they're innocent, so they're not really giving much away. So I think out with maybe Red, we don't really know what the other guys are in for.
I don't think it's ever established, apart from Tommy later on, and obviously maybe Brooks. I think Brooks in the book. I can't remember. I think it might have been he murdered. I don't know, his wife or something. I can't remember. See, I've never read the book. I have to write that wrong, Stephen. I actually didn't know until the last 5-6 years that it was a Stephen King short story. But you're right, Stephen. I think you've nailed that roof tarring scene beautifully there. It's just a great scene and sort of setting up the roots of friendship for Andy that he requires, because this movie takes place over about 20 years or something.
Yeah.
It's a long, long time he's in this prison for, so he needs that friendship. Certainly when you have adversaries like the sisters and Boggs and whatnot, he needs that sort of support, that emotional support to lean on.
Yep.
You says, I mean, before we came on, that obviously the beer scene, I mean, it looks glorious.
It does.
I mean, there's nothing better than drinking a ice cold beer on a summer's day, but even more so, you've knocked your pan in. Obviously, Andy doesn't do it.
No.
He's obviously teetotal, because the last time he drunk, he got framed for a murder.
Yeah.
He didn't commit. But it's just beautifully shot, the music as well.
Yeah, I think it's, who is it passes him a beer? I can't remember.
It's Haywood.
Haywood.
Yeah.
You know, he passes him over a beer. There's a bit of a symbolic gesture in Andy's part there that, you know, he's showing the guys, you know, I didn't do this for a beer. You know, I didn't. You can see I don't drink. You know, that's not the reason I was doing this.
Yep.
It was to get you guys a reward for, you know, obviously they rigged that as well, didn't they? I forgot to say that. They did rig the sort of names out the hat to make sure that they got the sort of clique up on that roof to do the job, you know. So
that's probably the best jobs, even at that time, even though it looks punishing to be out in the fresh air, even though it would probably be unbelievably warm.
Yeah,
that's better than being in and doing presumed laundry work and sanitation and whatnot. That's a better job. So yeah. Also, that then leads Andy on this path, and obviously being involved and embroiled with the guards and whatnot, the financial side. He's helping them with tax, and I want to say it's God. Is it not to do with inheritance or something like that? He's working out with all the guards. Takes him on this path to working with Warden Norton. And obviously bribing the books and embezzlement and whatnot, and just general shenanigans and nefarious acts that are going on. That's a really important scene that comes after that sequence of events. You also have Brooks laughing his head off because he can't believe Andy's in this position. He's a prisoner, but he's playing them all like a fiddle. I think he says, you mentioned that it's the only thing it's missing is a sort of Hawaiian
hula girl,
hula girl or something like that.
Sitting on the desk, So
that was a great little scene. That shows you Andy's starting to rise in here. He's using his intelligence to sort of balance out or get his equilibrium sorted out in this setting. He was on the back foot now. He's starting to establish himself. He's an intelligent man. He's moseying in with the most powerful people in the prison, and none more so does that become fruitful than when Boggs attacks him again. I think he breaks his jaw. He does something to him. I don't think he breaks his jaw, but it's also that moment where they take the film reel, I want to say, or something like that. And there's quite a fight. I think he stabs one of them, and I know he threatens to stab Andy in the eye or the ear, and he says, if you do that, I'll bite down uncontrollably. And then they beat him to within an inch of his life, and that leads to that amazing sequence with Boggs and Captain Hadley. Where that relationship's paid off beautifully for Andy, because he comes in and he just beats the living shit out of Boggs. Probably one of my favourite scenes in the whole movie. Just the way he wins him with the stick, and then the beating. He's crawling along the floor and he's trying to grab onto the railing. He can't. He's dragged in. It's just glorious. He's eating out of a straw for the rest of his life.
That's what they say,
Just desserts. Stephen, what did you make of that scene, man? That was fantastic.
You know, it's very easy for us to say, John,
with dark humour,
it's justified, but there is an element of dark humour, and there's got to be, talk about getting your comeuppance. You know, this guy he wasn't just he wasn't playing around with Andy. You know, he was a vicious guy, and obviously his cronies as well were very vicious as well, and I can only imagine what's in the book, and it would have been very disturbing to read. What was in the film, and that's what we're talking about, was enough to really understand the scene, being put in the film. Did he deserve it? I think he did.
Oh yeah,
I think because he abused Andy. Him and his cronies abused him for, I don't know how long it was. It's never established how long it goes on for, but it's long enough for the justification of Boggs' demise. And it also shows at this point as well, Hadley. I don't know what it was. The first time I watched it, I thought there might have been a bit of a sympathetic tone with him, but it's not that at all. It's just that him, the warden, they need Andy for certain things, and if he is going to be in the infirmary for most of that time, he's not going to be able to do the returns and stuff like that, inheritance tax and all that. So the bigger picture is obviously they need Andy for their own sort of gain, and it's not going to happen if this interference is happening. Pardon the pun.
Yes, it all stems back to the corrupt side of Shawshank, Stephen.
Yeah.
And it's all self-gain, self-preservation from Hadley. He's not doing it because he's a good guy.
No.
Because it's established not long after that he is in fact an absolute CUNT, what he does with a certain individual. We've not discussed in terms of introduction yet.
No.
But obviously, during this, Andy has been working with Brooks in the library. He's sending off letters and whatnot to the governor, requesting more money, funding to open up the library and maybe educate some of the prisoners and make them better individuals, redeem them so they can go out and be fully formed human beings outside. I think there's a great moment in the canteen with Brooks where he's discussing this, Andy, and I think Brooks hits back with, there hasn't been one warden that I've had a discussion with whose arse doesn't pucker up tighter than a snare drum when it comes to releasing more funds. That was just a great moment.
Yeah.
And then obviously Brooks has his parole stuff as well going on after that.
Just before that, John, we get to that. Obviously, the progression of the library as well was quite well established. You know, you see the progression in the sort of the environment of it. You know, it's like a little sort of storeroom at the beginning, and it opens up. They're knocking walls down, etc. You know, and Andy's persistence in writing for more books and more books and more books, and they all turn up. Obviously, this sets up the Tannoy moment, which we'll get to. But you're right, John. The Brooks parole bit is probably the bit for me. It's the halfway point in the film, and the tone of the film takes a slight, twist. I felt just with the message that was being established, here, and it's all about hope and institutionalism, if I can say that. And this is the sort of halfway point of the film, but it's also the most important part of the film for all concerning, and certainly for Andy and certainly for Red. Andy and Red have got different views on the word hope. Red sees it as a very dangerous word. Andy, on the other hand, sees it as something he needs to cling on to. And it's kind of showed in Brooks' parole moments, that he doesn't know how to fit back into society. He had a place, he felt important in the Shawshank, and he had a position of, not power, but it felt important. He felt like he was required, he was needed by the people around him. When he was outside, I think he was working in a supermarket or something like that, wasn't he? And he was putting his hand up, so he can have a toilet break and stuff like that. So it was quite a sad sequence, and I'm trying to remember, was it James Whitmore or something? I can't remember his name, John, that played Brooks, but it was just it was such a character in the film, and his James Whitmore. So his his breakdown prior to that was very upsetting as well. It was very emotional. Obviously Hayward didn't think so. He was the one with the knife at the throat. But Red, but Red actually, he doesn't have any sympathy for him. He has all the sympathy for Brooks, and he highlights the point. You don't understand, this man's life is here. He's been here most of his life. When he goes out there, he's going to be a frightened old man, and it's true. What obviously happens to Brooks is it's so sad. Brooks was here. He sketches into the sort of the framework of the bed and breakfast or whatever. It's a hostel or something he stays in. I can't remember. It was like a little room, breakfast room, not breakfast. And Stephen, look, I think you're absolutely right as well. What you said about the actual sequence, its importance to this movie is round about the halfway mark. And it's the first time we see a primary character really meet his end. Also, the fat guy dies at the start, but no one cares about him. He's just a means to an end. He's a piece of monkey spunk, essentially. So we don't really care about him. But Brooks has been established throughout the first half of this movie. As you did say, an important guy who can do things in around the prison system. I think he wheels books to people in their cells and whatnot, and allows Red to ship some of his goods about as well. So he's an important guy. And with him choosing the route of institutionalism and obviously taking his life, he can't move on in this world. It was tragic because you see it, he's an old guy, he's not used to the hustle and bustle of modern day life. I think this is the 1950s or something by this point. There's a lot more cars around. There's actually a quote from from him in the movie. When I came in here, there was maybe one or two cars. Now they're everywhere. He's just completely overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. It's sensory overload. He can't cope with that life, and then that poses
existential questions for Red and obviously Andy later on in the movie, as you did say. Red in particular, he has a route to choose. Does he go down the Brooks route or does he go down the Andy route of hope? And you're right as well what he says. He views hope as a dirty word, essentially. It's it's dangerous. But I really enjoyed that sequence, everything about it, the music, it was tragic, it gave some emotional weight to the movie, almost what like Harrison Ford was wanting to do with Star Wars back in the day as well. It's needed in a movie like this. You need to have a really low lull in the story in terms of emotion to have the euphoric high at the end. And look, yeah, I mean, after that I think Andy gets a successful book grant. He learns about him hanging himself. They're all down in the dumps. Right away Frank Darabont gives us a high straight after it. He doesn't sort of, I don't know what you'd call the word.
Doesn't want to depress the audience.
He doesn't want to depress them and just stick around in that dark funk. So he gives us the book grant scene, all these books being shipped to the prison, and again re-establishing that message, the marriage of Figaro, the two incredible operatic singers. He plays it over the tannoy system. He is giving hope to the whole prison. Everyone gets to feel as though they're free for a brief moment.
Cinematography, John.
Cinematography again, fantastic. You're going to the canteen, you're going to the yard.
Everyone's frozen, aren't they?
Frozen.
Have you noticed that shot?
Except from the guard.
Everyone in the yard, they're all just taking that moment just to absorb this music coming through. Probably never heard anything like this in their lives. You know, and I think Andy knew that, you know, and it was really just to establish that, you know, there's some things that this place can do to you. There's some things that these people in this place can do to you. There's something that can't take away from you. Something inside.
Yeah, and Stephen, you've got the fragility of that as well, though. Sort of shown by the glass window, and obviously Captain Hadley and Warden Norton smashing through it and saying, "Look, you're free for a brief moment, but we've got our tyrannical grip on you, and it's just a small pane of glass separating you from us." So there's something going on there as well in terms of intelligent themes being explored. You're right though, after that he gets flung in the cooler. I think it's 2 weeks or something like that, the longest most of them have experienced someone having to be in the cooler for. He comes out and he's speaking about music and he says, I could hear, I think it was Mozart or something. He was joining me, he kept me company, and they were all looking at him as if he was stupid. What are you talking about? And he's like, it was in here. I think the big tall guy, I can never remember him, the older chap, who says he looks like the judge in My Cousin Vinny. He's saying, what did they let you tow that down there, the old player down? He's like, no, it was in here. There's something in here that they can't touch, and that's hope again. It's the whole theme that we were talking about, which is vitally important in this redemption story. Really enjoyed that sequence. I thought it was fantastic, and it again furthered on the thematical things being explored. Tommy Williamson is introduced shortly after this as well, to further build upon Andy's renewed sense of purpose. He's rebuilt the library. We have the dumbass scene from Haywood talking about the Count of Monte Cristo. He's singing away, and that blends beautifully into the soundtrack and the score. Hank Williams introducing Tommy Williamson, this young, downtrodden, troubled guy he thinks he's an idiot and he's got no hope in life. Andy sees great potential in him. He decides to tutor him. There's so much going on in that sequence. So music, him being introduced, this sort of Elvis rockabilly guy. And then he's much going on.
Andy uses Tommy as a sort of project, you know, that he's to educate him. You know, it's something that throughout Andy's time in prison, that he's always keeping himself busy, you know, and he's always making sure that he's doing something, you know, whether that be the rock sculpting or what, I can't remember what you call it, rubbing, is it? I can't remember what it's called.
He's making the chess pieces.
For the chess pieces, you know, whether it be that, you know, whether it be the library, whether it be, you know, tutoring Tommy, the music as well. This was another sign that Andy was different from the rest of them. The rest of them kind of just accepted their fate and were quite happy just to rot away in this place, whereas Andy couldn't accept that. Again, it all comes down to the hope thing again, John.
And the fact that he is actually innocent. Which is something which is also established at this point when Tommy hears his story and realises that... What's the guy's name again? I can never...
Well, Tommy never accepts, and he can sense that Andy isn't... There's something different about him to the rest of them, and he can't understand and he can't accept what Andy's in for. I think he actually says to Red and...
What's he in for,
I think it's Haywood. I think it's those two, and basically it doesn't seem the type. And then they explain what he was in for and the details of the crime, and this is something that rings bells with Tommy. Because obviously this is where we established that Andy is, of course, innocent.
Yeah, and he was a cellmate. I think it was Elmo Blash. I couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, he was an absolute creep of a guy. He was only in it for maybe about 20-30 seconds, John, that little sequence they did where he was explaining his crime, and he found it hilariously funny. That
pinned it all on him.
Pinned it all on him. It's just a scum of the earth kind of guy.
Yeah, and Stephen, this is incredibly important for the actual film as well, because this tutoring, this connection he has, almost views him perhaps as like a sunlight figure. He's bringing him to his full potential. When he gets his exam results, I think one of the guys snatches them. He doesn't want to open it up. He finds out he's actually passed. I think it's a C plus or something like that. He then gets called out to have a meeting with Warden Norton. He's brutally executed because he's obviously acutely aware that he could potentially release Andy out into the freedom of the public life, and he could unearth all of his dirty secrets. He doesn't want that. He has him killed. He then relays this information to Andy, and this brings the whole thing tumbling down. I actually think it's a moment prior to that as well, where he says to him, why are you being so obtuse?
Yeah.
And that just strikes a chord with Warden Norton. That brings everything down around him.
I think that was the point for Andy as well, that he'd enough, and he's saying, right, this is what we didn't know, obviously, throughout the years, John, what he was doing behind the poster. So I think that was his hope as well. Obviously it's a big reveal at the end. You need to sort of establish this. You need to mention this at this point as well, John, because this wasn't like a trigger happy thing with Andy. It wasn't a case of Warden taunting him in the solitude of the cell, saying that your only hope's been killed because I've killed him and you're not getting out of here. It wasn't. That's not what ignited his or motivated him to get out of this place. He'd been planning it for years, obviously, but this was the final straw. This was the sort of thing that triggered it all. That he had to. This was the point of no return for Andy.
And yet, obviously, you have that great sequence, Stephen, prior to the actual escape itself, where he's shining his shoes. He goes and replaces he does a switcheroo with the
Andy,
documentation.
He's kind of going through his duties, his day-to-day duties, and there's this kind of acceptance. From an audience point of view, you just think this guy is just...
He's broken.
He's been browbeaten so much, he's just accepted the way things are, and he's just going about his business, kind of institutionalised behaviour into accepting his role in this prison. Just accept that this is the way it is and just go on with it because it could be worse. That's the kind of thinking that the audience has at this point. Obviously, John, as you said, the shoe shining, replacing the shoes, replacing the books as well that go into the little safe in the wall.
How many times does a man look at another man's shoes? I do it all the time.
And John, and the first time I see the roll call in the morning, I did think, I think it was when Haywood said that Andy asked for a piece of rope or something. I didn't question it. Why would he? And I think Red said, "Are you nuts?" We're all trying to keep an eye on Andy just now because he's very down. And for a moment you do think this is a terrible ending. He's committed suicide. These guys are going to get away with this. The warden, the likes of Captain Hadley and that. It's just you think it's coming to the end of the film, but it's really just the beginning of the end, if you like. There's a good half hour, 40 minutes still of the film to go. Maybe not as long as that, actually.
Yeah, it's about 35 minutes, I think you're right.
It feels we've just still got a whole chunk of this film to go, and obviously, when they inspect the cell as well, it's just everything unravels then, and it's one of those jaw-drop moments the first time you see it as well. Yeah.
Stephen, well, look, we were discussing this movie prior to the review, looking at the Oscar nominations. Obviously, it never won a single one, and Morgan Freeman is actually nominated in the year that this movie was up for the Oscars as the lead role. And when you think about it, I was kind of saying that's wrong. It's Andy Dufresne, it's Tim Robbins. But when you actually think about it, Andy Dufresne is almost like an enabler for Red, getting him...
Red's the narrator.
Renewing his sense of hope and humanity, bringing him out of his shell, out of this institutionalised life. And for that final moment, once Andy leaves and escapes, it flips back to Red. He becomes the out-and-out lead, in a sense, and that's almost something symbolic in that.
Yeah.
He's been trying to push him. He leaves, and that's almost the catalyst for Red to say, well, look, I have to do something now. But we actually forgot to speak about the great sort of meeting between Red and Andy before he escapes. The get busy living, get busy dying sequence. Yeah. Talking about San Juantaneo and whatnot. I'll leave this box underneath this big oak tree in the middle of a field. It has no right being there. I think a black rock or something. So there's so much going on in that. Just that shoe shining scene, that's a very hard phrase to say incidentally. That's a tongue twister and a half. And then also, as you did say, the whole, has he killed himself or not? Red's sleepless, he can't sleep, there's a thunderstorm and whatnot. You get that roll call in the morning.
Yeah.
You're holding me up the frame, you better be alive in there or sick, or dead in there or sick. So help me God, or something along those lines. I'm saying something. I know this movie word for word nearly.
Yeah.
We have the warden, this is a conspiracy, and fussy bridges on the wall, and it's just amazing. You've got big tall guys like Morgan Freeman and Clancy Brown kind of a ducking from these stones being flung at them. He throws it through the poster, you hear the clatter. It's just an amazing jaw-dropping reveal.
Yeah.
The music builds to a crescendo. Thomas Newman, that sort of hillbilly, I don't know what you call that instrument.
It's like a violin, but it's not. I know what you're talking about, John. It's just it's a great sound.
Yeah, it's like it starts off really low. It's like and it builds.
And one of the big talking points over the years is obviously how Andy managed to pin that poster back down from the inside. But I love the way the warden just sort of puts his hand through and grabs the poster from the inside just to rip it off the wall. And then the
shot at Roger Deakins again, camera inside, fantastic.
And the camera kind of goes back, it backs off, doesn't it? And it shows them all looking down, just with their jaws dropped, and quite rightly so, because this would have took, I think actually in Red's narration, it would have took him about 15 years to do this with that little rock hammer.
It's incredible, and just the meticulousness and the patience of Andy shoveling the bits of rock out from his shoes on the yard slowly but surely. It shows you the measure of the man, what he's all about. He's just cerebral, he's different, as you did say, to every other prisoner in this Shawshank prison, and we also get the reveal of what he had to go through to escape, and that is an amazing sequence in and of itself. A lot of inaccuracies in there that I still ponder even to this day. I've watched this movie dozens of times now. How the hell did he crack through that pipe? Was it old lead piping? How did he manage to strike with the lightning or the thunder strikes, whatever you call them, and get through it? How did a big 6'6" guy get into this pipe and crawl all the way through it? It's very strange.
Looks smaller on the outside than it does on the inside.
It's strange.
It is a strange thing, but it's one of those things don't beat yourself up about, because I can go further than that, John. I can actually think he must have been stinking getting into that bank. There's no way he can shift that smell. No way.
He was in a river.
You're talking, how many football fields was it along that pipe? Must have been something. It was ridiculous, wasn't it? That would be in his pores, that would be in his hair. A bar of soap's not going to shift that in one wash. And dirty water, it's sewage water he's washing himself in. I could just imagine the smell, coming into that bank. But it looked like a hot day as well. Terrible combination.
But it was a thunderstorm. We were raining. It was just a perfect storm. There you go. There's a little pun there for you. Yeah, there's a lot of things you could go down an absolute rabbit hole with this movie if you were thinking too much. But it's just beautiful, Stephen. That whole sequence. We also have Andy, or Randall Stevens, walking into the bank, and he's a free man. He looks incredible in the suit.
The iconic shot before it, John, in the rain. He puts his hands.
Yeah, he puts his hands up into the air. Yeah, that's actually the poster.
Yeah, it's a fantastic shot. It's just one of those technicalities again. But getting into the bank, John, cool as you like.
Yeah, cucumber. Yeah,
yeah, and
cucumber, not cucumber.
And obviously withdraws all the money that he's been putting by under this name. And
sends the information about briberies and embezzlement and whatnot to one of all of the newspapers.
Yeah.
And that sets up another fantastic sequence.
It's amazing.
You hear the police cars going over the hill, the music just blends beautifully. We've got Thomas Newman at his absolute best, Roger Deakins at his best.
We get the warden as well, when he's just before the sirens kick off, he opens his the book.
Yeah,
and it's Andy's copy of the Bible with
Salvation Lies Within.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it's just the
what a message.
Yeah, he realises he's screwed, and it's like Bob Gunton, just amazing, man. We'll get into the performances in a moment, I'm sure. But just the Salvation Lies Within, it's just iconic now. It's etched in my mind, and just the way he kills himself, it's just a fitting end. He's a coward of a man. He's been hiding in the shadows with all of his financial wrongdoings. Yeah. It's just the best way for this guy to get out. He was never ever going to see a cell after being in charge of prisoners for so long. But the whole talk, I think, about Captain Hadley, they say he was crying like a baby. You never actually see that in the movie. I don't think he did cry. I think that's just storytelling.
Yeah.
Far-fetched. This is a hard man.
It's wishful thinking from the inmates, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is, Stephen. It's just like stories carrying, essentially. But look, we will get into performances. I mean, we could speak about Red's parole, but I think we'll get into performances before we do that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, your immediate thought goes to Tim Robbins, because he is fantastic, and maybe Morgan Freeman as Ellis Boyd Redding. But there is really a great ensemble performance in this movie.
There is, John.
Bob Gunton, William Sadler, Clancy Brown, Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins, even the other guys. I mean, the likes of, as you did say, James Whitmore, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you've got Jeffrey DeMunn as well, he's in there. There's so many great actors, even Boggs. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to pick out a standout. I mean, the obvious ones are Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, though.
Yeah.
But what did you make about the performances in this movie? Because as I did allude to, and I'm sure we'll get into it later on as we round the review up and give our overall thoughts, rewatchability and whatnot, I think that's a large part of why this movie's got an almost magnetic pull to it. You're just drawn right in.
I'd seen Tim Robbins in a few films prior to this, John, but this was probably the one that stood out the most for me. Same with Morgan Freeman. I'd seen him in various films, but again, it was just this film. It was just, they talk about films in lightning in a bottle. This was certainly one of those films in terms of casting. You're right, Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman carry this film. I never really looked at it till we talked about it earlier, John, in regards to the lead man in this film. But it is right, Morgan Freeman's character narrates the story. That's the telling sign that he is the lead person in this. It's just Andy's more of the master of ceremonies, very much like Marty McFly is in Back to the Future. He's the man that carries the story into the interesting characters, the George McFlys, the Doc Browns, etc. And it's the same in this as well. You need that character, so he's the sort of audience member, although he's the one being wronged. So that you can understand why people's focus may be drawn away from Red, and they want to know what happens to Andy. They want to make sure he's okay, etc. Red's in that sort of category as well. He tries to look after Andy as best as he can. He also misses his friend, which we'll obviously get into as well. But for me, I think those two actors, I don't know if they've worked again since this film and how close they are out with, obviously, their careers. But there is something about those two that I sense they had a good time making this film. Probably great friendships were made, not just with those two, but with other cast members. There seems to be a real spirit amongst them, and you're right, John, even the sort of secondary characters, I don't know all the actors' names, but
Sadler's the standout.
I've known him since the Bill and Ted films, but Die Hard 2 as well, but I think there's just something about the cast. I think everyone was just in the right place at the right time, and take away Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman away from it, everyone seems to just play the role perfectly, and I couldn't, out with those two, I can't see anyone that stood out the most, not because they didn't do anything wrong, they just all did everything right.
And Stephen, again, I'll get into it briefly, unbelievably tall cast. Bob Gunton, 6'2", Tim Robbins, 6'6", Clancy Brown, 6'6", Morgan Freeman, 6'2", you've got the big tall guy, the smallest guy, a little bit of Scottish slang in there again. It's 5'8", man. It's ridiculous. Massive cast. But you're right. Everyone views the Shawshank Redemption. They think it's the story of Andy, but in actual fact, it's the redemption of Red. He's the guy who needs redeemed. He's completely institutionalised, lost hope, and now he has to find his way in life again and become a renewed person outside of the walls of the Shawshank Redemption. It's almost, or the Shawshank prison, I should say. It's almost like the Phantom Menace. Who's the Phantom Menace? Stephen, Red does get paroled after 40 years. He has a real struggle with life, as I did allude to earlier in that middle point with, obviously, Brooks. He has a choice. He's at a fork in his life. Does he go down the Brooks road and give into it?
He's in the same room as Brooks.
He's in the same room. He's also visually posed this question. Do I break my parole and go back to prison? Do I kill myself? Or do I choose hope and go with my old friend? He says in narrations he's looking at postcodes.
Andy gave him that though, John. He gave him that,
I just missed my friend.
Just basically, if you ever get out, come and find me. And that's all it was. It was just a case of, don't want you to go down the roads of Brooks. I'll give you an alternative. There is an alternative. There is another way. And thankfully he does go down that. I think what he etches into that beam that Brooks had put. Brooks was here, so was Red. WOZ, I think it was. So was Red, as I recall. You know, and it was just a great scene. We see him on the bus, making his way to the border, I think it is.
With a modern car in the driveway.
Yeah.
That's a little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Stephen, again, you talk about Thomas Newman scores. That score is just amazing, the way it builds to crescendo as that bus is going over the hill, and then it slows right down. It's just perfect. It sort of marinates beautifully with that beach scene with Andy and Red meeting up once again. He's walking along. It's just beautiful. It's like a piano.
Yeah.
I want to say the lush blue of the Pacific. These two old friends coming together happily ever after. We could go down another rabbit hole and speak about what happened after this movie. There's some people have theories on that. One, Brian Lemon, the famous comedian over here, he thinks that they murdered each other or that.
Do you know, there's a funny thing about the last shot, John, where the camera pans up the way as if it's a helicopter shot or something like that. I can't remember, but it goes from the beach after both of them meeting, and you can't tell me I'm not the only one that does this, but you watch the two figures getting closer and closer as they get further away from the camera, and they're like two little pins in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Do you know what I'm talking about? And you're like, he's just going to walk by him, you know, just nod, you know, but they don't, they hug, they obviously hug, you know.
Yeah, it's a fantastic scene, Stephen. It's just perfect.
How funny would it be if they just nodded and walked on?
Yeah,
right, you know,
be completely lacklustre. It'd be shocking. But I do think it would have ended badly. I have to say, I agree with Brian Lemon, and that is. I think they probably would have ended up killing each other. I don't think the novelty would have worn off after about 10 minutes, or maybe an hour maximum. And then he would have been like, right, go now, Red.
Yeah, I've got a yellow pages, I don't need you.
Yeah, and I've got a boat to finish. Get out of my skin. Go on, get away. I gave you hope, but go and get your own life now. Technical stuff, Stephen. I've said before we wrap up our thoughts on this fantastic movie. The score, Thomas Newman, one of the truly great composers. He was nominated for an Oscar for his work on Little Women that year and The Shawshank Redemption. How he never won for this is truly beyond me. There is not a better score in 1994 than Thomas Newman's Shawshank Redemption score. It's iconic. I can hear this guy's music. He's like at John Williams level. I can hear his score in any movie and I know it's Thomas Newman right away. He has something unique about his sound. I don't know what it is. It's just something.
That's something that he did the same on American Beauty as well, John. It was just something about his... It added an atmosphere to the film. It certainly did in this as well, and you're right. There's moments in this film and scenes in this film where the music just overtakes what you're seeing visually, and that's there's a real power to that, you know. But you're right, the technical stuff, like we just said with the score, cinematography as well, was something else. There's something about the I don't know what the terminology is, the filtering of the look.
Yeah, it's just perfect.
Yeah, it's, you know, the scenes in the sun are very bright, you know, and the scenes at night are very dark. I know that sounds very, you don't say.
Right, Stephen,
but
it does. It has a lived-in feel.
I mean the mood as well, though, John. There's a dark mood about those dark nights in a prison. You know, certainly that sort of climatic scene where we don't know what Andy's done with himself at that point, obviously, in his life. But there's just something about the cinematography. It marries well with the score in this film. It's just something about it, you know, and I can understand why certain directors go back to the same composers, the same cinematographers, because they know what they're going to get and they know how to do their job, you know, without sounding patronising. Yeah,
Stephen, you just know what you're getting from Roger Deakins' period. He's just the greatest cinematographer of all time for me. There's probably other ones there, can't spring to my mind right now, but he's just up there. It blows my mind he had to wait 20 odd years for an Oscar. How you never get an Oscar for this? I actually don't know who got the Oscar. It may have been Forrest Gump for cinematography, because that was a pretty good movie as well, let's be honest. I know that cleaned up at the Oscars that year, but just amazing cinematography again from the godlike Roger Deakins. Not much more to be said there. Final thoughts on the movie, Stephen. I've said it's legacy and re-watchability. It's probably the most re-watchable movie for me. We spoke again about this before we came on. There's certain great movies like The Godfather and whatnot. You can watch it, but then I have to leave some years before I see it again. I could watch this movie every month. Yeah. And it's just, it never lacks its potency. There's something about it. It's just
when I first got the VHS, John, I watched it like that. You know, I just watched it back to back, just obsessed with the film. Yeah. As the years obviously dwindled down, it's maybe became 2-3 years gap. It's been a while, as I said, since I watched the film, but there is this rewatchability, like I previously mentioned it earlier in the show about it when it comes on TV. You just happen to watch it and you have to watch it as well. Just, you know what's going to happen, you know line for line, you know everything about the film that you can possibly get out of the film, and it just has this addictive quality to it.
And yes, Stephen, final thing I will add is the legacy of this movie. Of course, it didn't win a single Oscar, but it's aged like a great wine. It's matured beautifully over the years. I think there was a great Bob Dylan quote, aged like wine. I can't recall what the hell that song is. It's doing my nothing. Doesn't matter though, this movie's just getting better as the years went on. There's been a growing appreciation of its brilliance. I think you actually says it's, well, you seen it in 95 and you were talking about it at work or whatnot and couldn't believe how good a movie it was, and it's just getting better and better and better. But look, I'm done speaking about it. We have spoke the hind legs off of this fantastic movie. Fantastic though it is. What the hell do you guys make about the Shawshank Redemption? Have you seen it? If you haven't seen the Shawshank Redemption, you need to be beaten up like Boggs was by Captain Hadley. There's something wrong with you.
Fresh fish.
There's people out there, Stephen, that haven't seen Star Wars. I'm sure there's someone out there who hasn't seen the Shawshank Redemption. But if you have seen it and you want to give your thoughts on it down below, then you can comment below in the comment section. That's what it's there for. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it. You can subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying content like this. And if you do, then you will see me again tomorrow for movie news, and on Thursday and Friday for more movie reviews.